So sitting in a spot, are we? Ever sit there and just ponder about things, wonder about things, struggling with some stuff, dealing with things that you go through? But now I wonder if you're asked, I want you to sit there though and think for a moment. Bear with me this morning. Have you ever, are you sitting there? Is it the same stuff that you're struggling with? Is it different things that you're facing? Is it different challenges? Is it the same challenge but you're handling it a different way? Could it be the same thing, but because you're handling it a different way, it's not quite the same thing, yet it's still the same thing? If that even makes sense. It made more sense in my head. But the question remains is how are you handling it? With regards to how you're handling it, are you handling it differently than you are yesterday? Are you reacting differently? Is your mindset different? Is your heart different to whatever it is that you're facing? Whether it be the same thing or something different. Are you in a different place or spot now than you were yesterday, last week, last month, last year, a few months ago? If this is the case, then your result will also be different. That's growth. That's growth, my friend. I have a saying that I've come to make such a big part of my life as a reminder that I've learned, and it is that I might not be where I want to be, but thank God I'm not where I used to be, because He's brought me out of a place. He brings us out of a place, my friend. The thing about issues and seasons is they never last. It's a seasonal thing. It's a temporary thing. Now, if that thing hangs forever, you're doing something wrong, or you're not doing something yet. That's the thing. And that's why it's learning spaces. That's why we get taught to learn from these things, because it has to bring you out of a place. Growth takes place there. You learn to deal with stuff. You learn something new. You learn something different. You learn to throw off something that's not supposed to be there. And I just had to see a couple of scriptures today where God also brought people from. And in our very favorite Psalm 23 is a good one where it shows how God leads us. All through all these situations and equipping and these things, God leads us and He shows us the way. Verse 2 in chapter 23 of Psalms, He says, He makes me lie down in green pastures. He makes me lie down. He leads me there. He says, He leads me beside the still waters. So there where it's uneven and chaos and stuff, God leads you to a place where it becomes content, where there's peace. Because that's what still water resembles for me, is a peaceful area, a chill area, a space where you can sit and reflect. It says, He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for His name's sake. God leads you. We just need to see. And sometimes we get overcrowded with the stuff that we face. We realize this. But we need to keep our eyes open. We need to just keep fighting. You just got to keep going. And then just reflect on where God brought you from. Where were you yesterday? Psalms 40 again, verse 2. He says, He also brought me up out of the horrible pit, out of the miry clay, and set my feet upon the rock and established my steps. He has put a new song in my mouth. Praise to our God. Many will see it and fear, and I will trust in the Lord. He brought me out of the pit, out of the clay. He put me upon a rock. Oh, man. He established my steps. I like the extra bit where He put a new song in my mouth. That's how God changes you, gives you a new song, fresh new mercies, a fresh anointing, new power, new strength. He strengthens you. He restores your soul. He heals you. He brings you up out of that horrible pit. Luke 1:52 also says that he has brought down rulers from their thrones, but He has lifted up the humble. Which isn't also important, is during the process and during the growing process, and as you continue with your life's journey, do things that, two H's rather, that got stuck with me from a pastor that I saw some time ago. He mentioned this. He says, if you keep two H's in your life, man, you'll always run strong, you'll always run well, irrelevant of where you find yourself, and that is being humble and being hungry. Stay in humility and keep wanting more of God, more of His goodness, more of His grace, more of His kingdom. Seek Him first and His kingdom. you know? So wherever you are sitting, take some time to reflect on your life currently. Now, as you sit there and you realize that things are different, your life is different, you're in a different place, you're in a different space, you're handling things differently. Also think about where you were and where you are now. You know, God does this a lot with me lately. Is He reminds me at the sometimes the most obscure and obscene situations and times. He reminds me of where I was. And I just start smiling, you know. Sometimes it's an overwhelming emotion of, good heavens, where I was, how lost I was, and didn't realize it. Maybe that's you as well. But why would God do this? Why did He bring you out? Because you asked. It takes time sometimes. It doesn't happen like that in an instant. Sometimes it can. But often there's a process involved because you need to grow, because you need to learn something, because there's a particular part of your arsenal of equipment that you need for what God needs you to do, that you need to learn and get first before He can move you on, before you can move on as well. You know, and because He brings me out, He brought me out. These things shows for me God's faithfulness. His faithfulness on other levels. He's always there. He's always doing His thing. And not too long ago, again, I had one of my leaders in church brag about God, but brag on me. But it was God's doing, you know, about where I used to be some months ago, where it was, you know, he mentioned about where I started first when he first met me, and I was 1 week in home cell, 1 week in church, 1 week not, 2 weeks not, 1 week in. You know, it was such a stage, and I'm realizing that it was strange for them to see me there. And now, because of the process that I've been through, the stuff that I've been through, because of prayer and obedience and wanting better and wanting to be better and wanting to be more, He's now brought me in a place where it's strange for them to not see me, to not be at home cell, to not be at church. It's weird now. It's weird for me. It used to be, well, I can go tonight. I can go next week. I used to be there as well. Now I'm like, oh no, I don't want to miss. I don't want to miss out what God can possibly have for me. That's how it shifts, and it changes your mind. Your mind gets renewed like that as you act and as you walk. So I want to leave you with the fact that you might not be today where you want to be, but you and me, we thank God that you are not where you used to be. So I want you to get up. I want you to stand up. I want you to move forward and go and live your testimony.